The Nike Vomero Premium versus the Nike Pegasus Premium, the brand's two boundary-pushing shoes, but how do you choose which one is right for you, or is either one even right for you? I'm going to be totally honest. I don't think there's a lot of people actually looking at these two shoes and comparing which one to buy, because if you were interested in the Pegasus Premium, you probably picked it up already, and vice versa for the Vomero Premium. But I do think there's a lot of curiosity as to how these two boundary-pushing innovative shoes from Nike actually compete with one another. And one thing that's very clear now that we've seen all three of the tiers for both the Pegasus and Vomero line, let's take the structure out of this conversation for the moment. It's very clear what these three tiers actually are. The icon is really that versatility tier that's usable for any type of running, really any type of runner. The plus tier is about performance. That's responsiveness above all else. And the premium tier is about innovation. That's about pushing boundaries for Nike, both as a company, innovation in running, but also for both of the verticals, for the Pegasus and the Vomero, and theoretically, eventually, the structure. It's really looking at what the line is about and then pushing it as far as you can, being innovative with the lineup. So this tier system, I think, has worked out quite well, because it allows the icon model, the base model, to stay what it's always been. You always will get that core Pegasus or core Vomero. The plus is going to be the performance one, and then the premium is going to be the one that pushes it in the new innovative areas, just like a lot of people were asking for. And both these shoes definitely push the respective lines in new directions and really double down on really what makes the line the line. The Pegasus is all about direct response, and that's what this shoe is. And the Vomero is all about cushioning, and that's really what this shoe is. But there is a big difference here, and I think between these two shoes, while they're both very engaging to run in, I do think one of them is the better, more usable shoe than the other. And to begin to break that down, let's start with the specs. Now on paper, both these shoes are big, tall, heavy shoes. The stack heights of both these shoes are really off the charts. Even a couple years ago, we would never have dreamed of shoes this tall. And what I find kind of ironic is you look at the heel stack of the Nike Pegasus Premium at 45, that is the forefoot stack of the Nike Vomero Premium. These two shoes are really pushing the boundaries of stack height. But you do get a lot of technology in these shoes, and you get a lot of innovative thinking. Now, I mentioned that both of these are heavy shoes, and they both are quite heavy shoes that frankly won't scale well to larger sizes, especially the Vomero Premium. But the thing I'm going to say about Nike's trainers this year, and this includes the premium tier here, is that all of the Nike trainers this year could really lose 40 to 50 grams easily. However, they're so well balanced that you don't really notice the weight anywhere. They're not necessarily bottom heavy. The swing weight of the shoes isn't really off the charts. They actually kind of work. So there is an old adage of train heavy, race light. The premium tier and really all of Nike's trainers really go by that. As you can see from the two shoes that Nike sent me, their weights actually are a little bit under what the spec weights actually are. And overall, these two shoes actually share some similarities from an engineering standpoint. They both use ZoomX foam and Air Zoom units, but they put those into the midsole in very different ways. In the Nike Vomero Premium, you have a full ZoomX midsole, but now you have two Air Zoom units, one in the forefoot, one in the heel. Otherwise, it's a very straightforward midsole, a lot of rocker, which again, you would expect from a shoe this tall. Whereas in the Nike Pegasus Premium, you have a top layer of ZoomX foam, you have a full-length Air Zoom unit, the same technology that's in the Nike Alphafly, and then under that, you have React X to give it some more stability and a little bit more protection, which is what you would expect from a Pegasus. From a ride profile standpoint, both these shoes are off the chart. They're unlike anything you've ever run in before. The only way I can describe the Vomero Premium is bounding. It's whatever comes after bouncy. The image that I have in my head when I'm running in that shoe are astronauts on the moon sort of jumping from stride to stride. That's what it feels like running in the Nike Vomero Premium. The Nike Pegasus Premium is all I can describe as boing boing. It is one of the bounciest shoes that is so energetic and so responsive because of the full-length Air Zoom It and the curve in that Air Zoom unit It's really off the chart. Both of these shoes, as I said, are unlike anything you've ever run in before, and that's what makes them quite special. Moving to the outsole and contact patch of these two shoes, this is where you can see a massive difference. That is basically the difference between the Vomero and the Pegasus. The Nike Vomero Premium is a very, very wide shoe, and a lot of that is because of the high stack height. Nike engineered a lot of width into the contact patch of the shoe to add instability. But you can see that the midfoot and the heel are considerably wider than the Pegasus Premium. The Pegasus Premium is really toned down, especially in the waist of that shoe, and it's very, very Pegasus in feel. It's very nimble, it's very responsive, where the Nike Vomero Premium, because of that width, is bringing stability, but it's very cushioned and it's very planted and anchored underfoot. And specifically to the outsole, the Nike Vomero Premium has a standard waffled rubbered outsole. Standard Nike outsole, I actually think it's quite great. I actually really like the waffles. I'm really enjoying when there are waffles on Nike trainers at this point. Where on the Nike Pegasus Premium, the outsole looks the part, but the biggest problem with the Pegasus Premium is the forefoot rubber patch just not being durable. It's a very odd material choice. It's a material that I'm not seeing on any other Nike shoe, and the thing that really holds the Nike Pegasus Premium back is the durability of that forefoot piece of rubber. It's just not there, and that's really the unfortunate piece. As far as grip, both of these shoes actually work very well, though I think the Nike Vomero Premium, because it is that standard rubber, is probably the better one as far as grip. Starting with the uppers of these two shoes, while they're both technically an engineered mesh, they could not be further apart. Starting with the Vomero Premium, the upper on this is a two-layer, very fine engineered mesh. In the midfoot and the forefoot, it's, again, the two layers of that very fine mesh, which give you a very nice, generous fit to the foot. There's good volume in the toe box, and there's not a lot of overlays in this upper. It's actually a very simple upper. There's a toe bumper, and that's about it. However, this is still a Vomero, so you do get the Vomero padding at the top of the tongue, around the ankle collar, and around the Achilles flare. It's got enough of that Vomero padding to make it comfortable, but it's not too much like maybe the Vomero 18 actually has. I find this upper very breathable. I find it very generous in the way it fits, which is what I want in basically a recovery shoe, which is what this is. But I'm getting really good lockdown. A lot of that's because of this very simple eyelet chain. And that's really important in a shoe that's this tall. Even though this isn't necessarily for performance running, you want it to fit well because it's so tall, there's so much foam. You don't want your foot wiggling around in this. And overall, I think this is a really great upper. I think it's my favorite overall upper of the three Vomeros this year. It's more generous in fit over the Vomero 18, but I think it's more breathable and a little bit more compliant to the foot than the one that's on the Vomero Plus. Moving to the Pegasus Premium, this is an upper which I actually quite like, but there's a lot going on here. There's a lot of different materials, there's a lot of overlays, there's a lot of lines. Overall, I think this is just the more complicated upper. Also, from a volume standpoint, there's a lot less volume in the Pegasus Premium. These are both US men's size 9, but this shoe fits much smaller and tighter to the foot. Kind of like what I would expect a Pegasus to fit like. You can also see that the Pegasus Premium is a much narrower and pointier shoe over the Vomero Premium. So this is going to be a much smaller, tighter fit that is going to be much more restricted. But again, I think the lockdown in this shoe is really good if it fits your foot, and that's really important for a shoe that's this tall, but also this performance oriented. There's a lot of performance in the Pegasus Premium, and to have a good lockdown like this is quite important. As far as sizing and fit, both of these are US men's size 9. I would recommend definitely true to size in the Vomero Premium. I think it's just a great, generous fit. As I said, I think it's the best fit of the three Vomeros that have come out this year. So definitely true to size in this one. I can't see a reason to go up or down at all. True to size. However, in the Pegasus Premium, I think now that I've spent a lot of time in this shoe, I think the sizing really depends on what you want to do with this shoe. If you're going to use this shoe for running, mostly a tempo trainer, because I think that's where it's going to fit in the best, I would say true to size. Possibly you want to look at going up half a size because the toe box is so pointy in this shoe and because the volume is so low around the toe. Again, it's a very Pegasus fit. you may need that extra room of going up half a size. If you're going to wear this shoe casually, I would start at least half a size up, probably a full size up. That's going to give you a much more casual fit, and I think that's going to be very important and make this shoe much more comfortable, because I know a lot of people are looking at this shoe as a casual shoe. Let's move to the ride of these two shoes, but I'm going to start with the Nike Pegasus Premium. This shoe I think is quite interesting. You've never run in a shoe like this. This full-length Air Zoom unit that has the curve in it is unlike anything you've run in before. The other two layers of foam, the Zoom X on top and the React X on the bottom, you kind of have experienced those before, but this full-length Air Zoom unit, trust me, you've not experienced it. I talked about the ride profile of the shoe being boing boing, and it really is. This is a responsive, energetic, very, very bouncy shoe, especially if you're a forefoot striker, which I think this shoe is really best for. It's really, really quite outstanding to run in. It's really fun. It's probably one of the most fun shoes that I've run in 2025. But if you are a midfoot striker or heel foot striker, I think it's going to be a little different. Midfoot striking is going to be okay in this shoe, but if you're a heavy heel striker, there is almost no stability in the shoe because of this Air Zoom unit. You're just going to be mushing around. I think for casual wear, it's okay, but if you're going to do any type of running as a heel striker, I think you really need to consider that. On top of that, I've already mentioned this outsole material in the forefoot only, this patch of material, I think is what holds this shoe back. It just does not have the durability. After almost 100 miles, I'm getting a lot of wear on the outside edge on my right shoe. This is my left shoe. I'm almost run through the material and exposing the Air Zoom unit. That's not enough durability for this type of shoe. In my initial review for this shoe back at the start of the year, I said that it could be a good trainer to someone who loves to race in the Alphafly 3. I think if you love the Alphafly 3, you owe it to yourself to try this shoe because it's everything the Alphafly 3 always had as far as the feel in the Air Zoom units, just more of it. It's really quite incredible, but I do not think this shoe has enough durability to be a valid trainer to the Alphafly 3, as I said in my initial review back at the start of the year. I do think if you slotted this shoe in between, say, a Nike Vomero Plus and a Nike Alphafly 3, and you put this in between those two as more of a tempo trainer, kind of almost a replacement for the old Nike Tempo Next Percent, I think that is a good use case for this shoe, especially for that Alphafly racer. This is a heavy shoe, but there's a lot of performance in the shoe, and once you're up and running in it, you're really not going to notice the weight. Again, I think the balance of the shoe is really well, and the Air Zoom unit just overcomes any sort of weight in this shoe. Going from this shoe to the Alphafly is very natural, but again, the durability is not there as far as a trainer. I think it's a tempo trainer at best, or as I said earlier, I think a lot of people look at this as sort of a casual hype beast style shoe because it does look the part and it looks very tech. It's a very Nike look, and I think that's also a very valid use case for this shoe. Moving to the Nike Vomero Premium, I think this is a really compelling shoe for the specific use cases that Nike designed this shoe to do. This is a true recovery shoe, and Nike's made no other claims about this shoe. This is for recovery specifically, and it's for two types of running, very, very niche focused. If you are training for a race, therefore you're in a build for a race, specifically the marathon, but really any type of road racing, this is your recovery shoe option. This also could be your trainer option for most of that build, especially in later stages. If you've ever trained for a marathon, you know that towards the 3/4 point in the build, the battle becomes battling the fatigue in your body to get up and out for the workouts in that week of training. This shoe is the shoe that you use for your easy runs and your long runs to help you recover quicker and take some of the strain off your body so that you can actually hit those workouts. That's exactly the use case this shoe is designed for. The other use case for this shoe is related, but say you're just going to start a race build in maybe a month. So you're going to do maybe a month or 4 weeks of base building to build to the build. This is a great shoe for adding volume because you can go out and do a lot of easy running in this, do a lot of long running in this, but you're going to be taking a lot of the pounding off your body. and it's going to help you adjust to that added volume and build the durability that you need to actually start the proper race build. So I think that's another really good use case of this shoe. That being said, is this a good daily trainer? Well, this is a super fun shoe to run in. It is bouncy. It's beyond boing boing. It's bounding. Again, it feels like you're in anti-gravity. You're bouncing across the moon in this shoe. However, it's just a lot. I think it would be hard to justify this as just a true daily trainer. I think most people are going to be better off in something like the Nike Vomero Plus, because I think that's a more well-rounded shoe that's going to be better for daily training. This one's going to handle it just fine. It's got the durability for that. It's going to be fun. It's a little too much shoe, and I think it's best used for the specific purposes this shoe's designed for. But overall, I think this is a really fun bounding shoe that just feels endless. The cushion in the shoe feels endless, but it doesn't feel too overpowering. This is not tuned in a race shoe. This is not tuned like an Alphafly 3. This is not harsh. This is not trying to encourage you to run fast. It wants you to go slow. It wants to keep you easy, wants to roll you forward. This big rocker that is in the forefoot of the shoe, which needs to be there because of the stack height, really rolls you forward. The 2 air zoom units in this shoe really give this foam some structure. If this shoe didn't have those air zoom units, it would just be mushy and you get lost in all this foam. But as the shoe works right now, you can see these 2 air zoom units as sort of platforms. So if you're forefoot striking, you're landing on the platform of that air zoom unit. It's almost acting like a plate. It's not a plate, but it's giving you a structural piece in that midsole that's allowing you to push off against, and it's giving you some rebound. You get the exact same thing in the heel with this heel air unit. I think it's a masterfully engineered shoe for the purposes of recovery. I think you could use it as a daily trainer, but again, I think you're better off probably in just the standard Vomero Plus. And as far as casual wear, it's a big shoe. I think it looks really big on the foot, but I actually like the aesthetics of the shoe. I think it's really clean. I think it's really simple. I actually think it's a great looking shoe. So it's going to work well for that as well. Another way to see the performance differences between these two shoes is with my performance matrix. So if we take the Vomero Premium and the Pegasus Premium, we put them both on here, this is what we get. As you can see, the Vomero Premium is very, very focused on recovery. I think it does the easy stuff extremely well. The red or orange area is really the sweet spot of the shoe. You can see that right in the center of easy. I think it surprisingly goes into steady, and it surprisingly can touch threshold paces. But beyond that, I just don't think that's the shoe you want. This is a shoe that wants to go easy into steady and just help you tick over the volume in your plan, get those easy runs done so that you're fresh for the workouts. Whereas the Pegasus Premium, I think it can do that surprisingly well, but I think the real sweet spot of the Pegasus Premium is in that steady, even into threshold, getting into max effort running. I know it's a heavy shoe. Both of these are heavy shoes. But again, the air zoom unit in the Pegasus Premium is really something else. And it gives this shoe a ton of pop, a ton of response. It's very nimble because of the geometry and the contact patch. It is a shoe that wants to run fast, and it does that extremely well. However, I think if you're looking at either one of these shoes for easy running, the obvious choice would be the Vomero Premium. Overall, I've actually been very impressed with both these shoes. These are not typically shoes that I gravitate towards or really run in, but I've enjoyed running in both of these shoes this year. And as far as the Vomero Premium, this is a shoe I'll be using in my race build for a race coming up in December of this year. I think it's also really interesting that both these shoes are really what people have been saying Nike has needed to do with the Pegasus and the Vomero for years. Push the boundaries, push them forward, make them innovative. I think both of these shoes are. I think as version 1s of both of these at the premium tier, I think they're really great. As I said earlier in this video, I think both these shoes could lose quite a bit of weight. I think most of Nike's trainers can lose 40 to 50 grams. I think these shoes could probably double that and be much better. And I'm really curious to see where the next versions, the version 2s of both these shoes go, because I think as far as the Pegasus Premium, this is really to me a proof of concept of this curved air zoom unit and what you can do with it. And for the Vomero Premium, I think this is a proof of concept of really pushing the idea of a recovery shoe and what it can be. So I am very curious where the future of both these shoes is. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. If you want to support what I do here, check out sagasuRunning.com for merch or click the join button below. Neither one of those options are good. Leave a comment and a like because it helps this channel continue to grow, which I always appreciate. And with that, I'll catch you in the next one.